The Sahel has a highly variable climate. Intense flooding may be followed by drought during a critical period of crop growth. Both may happen in the same season. One group strongly affected by changing rainfall patterns is transhuman herders, families who travel long distances to the north, often close to the Sahara Desert, during the region's rainy season. Herders travel to where there is grass for their cattle and away from where farmers are growing their crops during the rainy season. As the northern rains wind down, herders begin to move south again to where the grass is still abundant. In recent years, an increasing number of transhuman herders remark that there is not enough grass in the places where they used to graze their animals, or that they have had to give up some of the herd for their environmental reasons or due to conflict over the use of pasture. Some of these animal losses may be attributed to poorer rains and consequent degradation of area pastures. As the average global temperature rises, such problems are expected to increase. Some herders have chosen to move to cities like Niger's capital, Niamey. When they move to cities, they may sell off much of the remaining herd in an effort to buy or rent housing, and to decrease the necessity of finding pasture or someone to herd the animals. People living in Niamey often live in conditions similar to those in rural areas: no running water, kerosene lamps rather than electric light, cooking over wood stoves. But such practices have become problematic in the crowding of the city. Lack of sewer systems means people living in close proximity to human waste. Wood fires in the city may lead to localized air pollution in a way that is rare in rural areas. And rather than growing or herding their own food, people often must find paying jobs which are difficult to find and for which they may be ill-trained. Another group affected by changing rainfall patterns is rural farmers. The majority of West Africans live in rural areas and grow or herd their own food. For example, harvest next year may be enough to feed most of the families for most of the year. If there are enough rains that year that are not spaced too far apart early in the season, and rains continue to come periodically throughout the season without being especially heavy at any time, a good outcome is likely. If, however, rains do not start early enough, or come too heavily while crops are still growing, or simply end too soon, harvests may be far less than families need. In such years, families often rely on more outside income, like sons traveling to work in Lagos, Nigeria, or making a living through the dry season with a motorcycle taxi service. Some families rely on foreign food aid, often in the form of enriched bulgur wheat from the United States, to make it through the year. As with the case of the herders, such stresses are projected to increase in the Sahel as global average temperatures rise. The most vulnerable in both cases tend to be those who start off with fewer resources. As in Bangladesh, that applies to many women. It also applies to entire households who have fewer livestock or less land than those around them. Such individuals and households will experience the greatest hunger and often have great difficulty finding outside work if they migrate to cities. Climate change is expected to make life in the Sahel more difficult, but especially for the poorest families and for women and children.